What is up, Facebook Live / Lakeside Church, fellow quarantiners? My name is Cole Harper. I'm one of your pastors here, coming at you for our live streams in Dry Places devotionals. Happy Friday, by the way. I hope this finds you well. So, long story short, I actually have been spending a couple months in Isaiah now, just kind of doing my own thing, on my own time. And one segment of Isaiah I read, this week. It was 2 verses from chapter 33. It really helped me rethink the way we try to work through and assuage our anxiety in ways apart from God himself. And I want to read those 2 verses to you and just make a few observations, okay? It's Isaiah 33, verses 5 through 6. Check this out, especially verse 6. The Lord is exalted, for he dwells on high. He will fill Zion with justice and righteousness. Okay, here comes the clincher. And he will be the stability of your times. Abundance of salvation, wisdom, and knowledge. The fear of the Lord is Zion's treasure. Okay? The big idea here, at least in, I think, what the Spirit has been kind of doing in me, it's been this. This passage speaks to my and our obsolete methods of anxiety management, especially during uncertain times like these. So the question then is, how does it do that? Well, you think about it. Jerusalem's source, when this was written, their source of stability, right, in the world had become the absence of threat and danger, not God himself. Did you get that? Jerusalem's source of stability in the world had become the absence of danger. That was a prerequisite to them feeling like they had their land legs, so to speak, or they knew where their life as a people, or maybe even individuals, was going. But the moment that was threatened, in this case by Assyria licking their chops to the north, they kind of fall apart here. And I don't know about you, but this has me written all over it. We don't mean to slip into this sort of thing, but I can tell you that I do. I will run to a myriad of things for my sense of equilibrium in my life, rather than who God has promised to be for me, right? And oftentimes, I have mistaken spiritual maturity in my own life for the mere temporary absence of adversity. Sad but true, right? And the problem with this, though, is that when God himself isn't our source for stability in our times, to use Isaiah's words, we'll turn to any piece of floating driftwood we can find when the chaos actually descends upon us, right? When things don't go according to plan. And often I've noticed that plan we have for our lives is highly optimistic and does not include, things like we're dealing with right now. And so that's why in this passage in Isaiah, the background is this. Jerusalem was returning to their old taskmaster, Egypt, as a way to deal with that anxiety about Assyria to the north. And that's significant, right? Jerusalem's craving for stability had led them to think Egypt's wealth and military power was their answer. The very overlords, right, that God had delivered them from ages ago. So God used all this shock and awe centuries before to deliver them from Egypt. And now they're turning back around, trying to make an alliance with Egypt to shore up their bets. So, one question I think in times of relative crisis, whether that crisis manifests itself in medical spheres or economic, with all this going around, here's a question for us. What's your potential Egyptian alliance? What's the big pile of you're tempted to run back to when stuff doesn't make sense right now? the former source of bondage that Jesus in his kindness and his liberated me from, but now we're tempted to embrace all over again to feel safe. What do you want to embrace to feel safe that you know you shouldn't? Maybe it's worshiping your 401k. Maybe it's like returning back to porn, or returning back to copious amounts of alcohol, or drugs. Hit like the emotional and mental ejector seat on reality and escape for a while, right? Maybe your source of that is becoming like a control freak, and having to micromanage everything in your family's home just to feel like you have some authority or say-so over something, right? Here's the thing. Responses like these, the ones I didn't even mention, it's not just that they don't work, and it's not just that they're sinful, although they are. It's that they are out of date with the new resurrection life Jesus has released inside of you. Do you feel that? Responses like that, crawling back to the things that used to master us before Jesus liberated us in his kindness, they're obsolete for believers in Jesus to run back to as a source of comfort or stability. Obsolete in the same way that Jerusalem turning to Egypt was obsolete for them in light of what God had done for them. There might be an illustration that could be useful here. So I don't know if you guys know this or not. My wife used to have a motorcycle license, and I didn't. So there's no way we would get one unless I had a motorcycle, because nobody wins in a relationship where the dude is on the back of the motorcycle and his wife's driving. That's besides the point. When Heather was learning to ride a motorcycle, or her first time being on a motorcycle, right? It used to be the case where she'd be sitting in the back and holding on to like maybe her brother, in front of her riding, her dad or something like that. And maybe they'd hit a bump or swerve, okay? Her response when she didn't know how to ride a motorcycle was to grab the waist. Good response if you're riding in the back seat of a motorcycle. But if you're driving a motorcycle, that same instinct to reach in the person in front of you, it no longer serves a purpose. If anything, it'll cause you to wipe out. So the appropriate response to those who have been initiated to that life is to back off the gas. Egypt keeps chasing us. That's just the way this kind of stuff works. But the calling in Jesus is to rediscover that our life is hid inside him. That's what Colossians says. And with it, then, stands to reason, so is the stability we crave in the life we find ourselves, regardless of the sources of danger or adversity that present themselves. So, I struggle with this the same way everybody else does. My wife scheduled to give birth September 1st to, our son or daughter. And I'm tempted to run to all kinds of things right now to really kind of pull me off the ceiling in light of some of the uncertainty going on. But as a believer, that kind of freaking out and running to lesser sources of comfort is no longer an option for me. And it's no longer an option for you. So join me this week, especially as we go into Holy Week, starting on Monday, in running to Jesus anew, afresh, in relying on him to give needed perspective, meaning, and significance in a life that maybe we didn't understand as well as we thought we did. Because that is the only alliance that will actually stand any chance of helping us come out of this in a way that's healthy, vibrant, or able to go the distance. So, all right, I'll let you get back to your lunch hours or whatever. I love you guys so much. Talk to you later.